Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast. Lehr with me, host Imperial Dane. And we are off to look here at Partisans. More specifically, we are looking at the regular Partisans. We're not looking at the tank hunter Partisans, nor are we looking at the reserve army irregulars. No, we are looking at the good old-fashioned Partisans. Cheap to call in, 1 CP, part of the Partisan doctrine. They're also initially not exactly the strongest as troops, but again, you know, they can appear from any building nearby, which can be utilized to spring some nasty surprises on your opponents. Also note access to Molotovs and mines and barbed wire. So they have a few sort of abilities right here. Usually you want, you know, to sort of engage your opponent from a slightly less expected flank. And generally they will possess, you know, higher potent weapons compared to, say, other weapons you might find. You know, SVT-40s, for example, that is one variant of the Partisan call-in. You can also find the submachine guns and light machine guns. Also note, they veterans you up fast, which also means you can quickly get into their bonuses. And there we go, another Partisan unit in this case, with a light machine gun. Though note, it actually does less damage than the other light machine guns. You normally find the Germans. Same with the SVT-40s. The exception to this are the SMG Partisans, who actually do a lot more damage. And for them, there's actually a slight little trick where essentially they can actually, into the certain right conditions, and with the upgrade, actually take on panzer gunners. So again, not something you should actually aim for, but again, in a pinch, it can be useful. That can actually, you know, do some serious harm to panzer gunners under the right conditions. Also quite handy is, for example, you know, oh crap, there's a weapon right there, and I need to secure it for the glory of the Soviet Union. Oh wait, Partisans, pop in, grab them, and quickly move forwards. I mean, that's also a quick way to sort of ensure that it doesn't fall into the hands of your opponent. So that's also a little thing, of course. Also, generally, once you got them there, you know, you have to pull them back from whatever task they're up to. You'll want them to have Partisan survival trainings that become tougher, and thus less likely to just get wiped out right away, since Partisans getting wasted are a bit of a waste in the long run. In particular, something like machine gun, but then basically all of them. And in particular, something like machine guns can be quite helpful. They might also be wondering, you know, is there sort of way to use them sort of as, you know, for example, one of fight? And generally, I mean, there are then certain roles they sort of tend to fall into. You can sort of utilize it for. Submachine guns, generally, you'll want to use more offensively. SVT-40s you sort of want to use for the rest of your forces or supporting some other unit. Light machine gunners you generally end up using defensively. For example, in the building, they can actually be quite harmful, and can also be used to actually break up panzer grenadiers or any other infantry reasonably well. You can also use them for support, but generally, I mean, you want them in buildings, supporting, or generally otherwise, you know, support. Not so strong offensively, so keep that in mind. Again, they just simply lack the numbers, and even with survival training, they're simply not going to cut it. So keep that in mind while utilizing them. But again, you know, right here though, again, we are dealing with a depleted opponent, so rushing them, for example, here in 2 teams, for example, can work out, but generally not something you should be doing an awful lot of. But again, use them to, for example, spring a surprise an opponent. And generally, I would recommend, for example, say, you know, oh, he's overextended himself. For example, he's got units here, he's got units here. Then you sort of know, well, I also know that, for example, he's got a support weapon unguarded here. Then I might say, you know, I'll pop in as a Partisan squad here and sort of punish him through that. That's really one of the points where the Partisans excels. It's basically springing upon an opponent who leaves his support weapons unguarded. Or basically, say again, harassment, you know, oh, he's got a lot of territory here but nothing guarding it. I'll pop in some Partisans and decapture it. They can't take territory, they can just render it neutral, and then you can mine the crap out of it again. Mines, that's really one of those nice little things they can pull off on your opponent, and also something a lot of people neglect. And again, it's sort of where you can sort of spring a surprise. Again, mines. Mine got! Ha ha ha! Yeah, that was a terrible one. So again, also keep that in mind. I mean, Partisans in general have a lot of utility in the game, but again, you have to realize again, they do possess certain vulnerabilities. They are, for example, extremely vulnerable to rifle grenades. A well-placed rifle grenade can easily end up turning them into minced meat. And generally, again, they're better for harassment. They're not really good for taking ground. They can just render it neutral. So again, a little thing there to keep in mind while utilizing your Partisans. But again, they do possess numerous things. Also be careful about not getting, you know, too eager and calling in too many of them, because all of a sudden you can find yourself drained of manpower. I mean, they're also a bit costly, but not awfully much still. So little things to keep in mind. But again, well usage of Partisans, great. They don't do so well against, you know, in a strong position from your opponent right there. Of course, we hear on mine one going off. For example, I mean, if your opponent really has a lot of infantry and such nearby, you're not going to find so much use for your Partisans simply because they're going to get cut down by a clever opponent. So that's something also to keep in mind while utilising your Partisans. Generally, they're much better on the flanks, harassing or, you know, quickly appearing behind your opponent and causing some mess of a kind.
This is our sector now.
And again, I mean, for example, the veterans here, I mean, they can do alright. Their SWT-40s are quite lethal. You might be noticing here the Grenadiers are, surprisingly enough, not doing too happily against the Partisans with the submachine guns. So there we go, the light machine guns moving up. Close to veteran 2 here, gaining accuracy. And again, the veterans are up faster, which makes them even more lethal. And again, in general, to some extent, they will have some more powerful weapons than, say, your conscripts. So there's sort of glass cannons, even with this little bit of training. But again, quite handy, can be used to spring a nasty surprise upon your fascist opponent du jour. And that way, gain your small advantage. But again, particularly remaining to, for example, spring a surprise upon your opponent who might have spread his support weapons out too far. Or basically just spread out too far in general. For example, using depleted units to take points, you know, quickly pop some Partisans and punish him for it. That's generally where they excel. Of course, you quickly need to pull them back. The key really can't last much, so that you need, of course, some half-jacks and some such to keep them going. So that's sort of a brief overview of Partisans, what they can do, how generally you get the most out of them. Again, spring surprises on your opponent. Again, he's got a machine gun, he's got nothing guarding except machine gun. You know, you pop them behind, knock it out, and steal it. And again, with the Partisans, it's also pretty cheap to do because, again, they only cost 20 manpower to replace. So again, that's a quick steal, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, I've got an MG42, or in this case, oh, hey, I've got a mortar. Stuff like that, you know, can make a difference when fighting your vile fascist opponent. And again, you know, a brief recap again, how do you utilize them? Again, MG gunners, basically for support or defensive purposes, placing up a building. The light machine guns will generally cause havoc for your opponent's infantry. I mean, never underestimate the power of the MG42. Even in captured hands. Rifles, support, slightly offensive, but again, you know, do be mindful of them. Submachine gunners, generally more offensive and harassment purposes, and again, well utilized using, you know, true sight, cover, and all that. You can generally overpower most German infantry that way because, again, they do a lot of damage, but generally you really want those to have survival training. And overall, get survival training. Also remember to mine. Again, usually if you do it well, your opponent won't be quite clear of what's going on all of a sudden, running into some mines because of units that suddenly appeared out of nowhere and began mining. So remember, use those mines if possible. It's really one of those little extra boons of them. One of the reasons I also like using Partisans, because all of a sudden I have more than my engineers to plop down some nice mines and really make things a mess for my opponent. And that way also gain a small advantage in the right places. So hopefully this has made you sort of more clear on Partisans themselves, how to utilize them, sort of how to try not, you know, to get them completely wasted. And again, be careful about getting too addicted to them. Sometimes, you know, there's this alluring feel, oh yes, I can just Partisans here, Partisans there. And again, you know, sometimes you can get a bit caught up in it, so be careful about avoiding that. But again, well utilized Partisans can in fact actually do quite a bit of damage to your opponents. So, hope you enjoyed this, hope you learned something from it, hope you've been inspired by it. If you were, why not subscribe? Tell your friends, tell everybody. If you weren't, well, sorry. This is Imperial Dane saying cheers.